Welcome back to Red Recapped. Today I'm going to describe a crime drama movie called A Prophet, released in 2009. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins with a troubled young man, Malik, starting his 6-year sentence in a French prison. He thoroughly undergoes the necessary processes, along with his information about being illiterate and having no support outside. In prison, he is taught to sew pants and eventually earns a sewing skill. During their free time, they are given temporary freedom to socialize and play in court. There, he observes the tension between the division of the Corsicans and the Muslims, where the Corsicans rule the prison with their connections with the guards. Unfortunately for him, as a newbie, he is immediately targeted and gets his shoes stolen by some inmates. He fights back and tries to redeem himself from embarrassment, but it's useless. The next day, a new batch of prisoners arrives. Luciani, the Mafia boss of the Corsican inmates, notices a familiar man, Rab, who's involved in the Feraldo case awaiting trial. He later finds out from the head guard that his big boss, Markaji, wants that man down before the trial. They try to find a way to get to him, but Rab's cell in the Muslim block is a big problem for them. Meanwhile, Malik is on the same block as Rab and has a strange encounter with him in the shower room. Rab offers him drugs in exchange for a perverse trade. Obviously, Malik is shocked and offended, avoiding him as much as possible. After the encounter, Luciani conspires with him to take the chance with Rab. However, Malik is very hesitant since it involves killing the poor man. Unfortunately, he has no choice but to do it to save himself from getting killed. Caught in a dilemma, he attempts to report them but instead gets threatened. He is then trained to hide a razor blade in his mouth to be used as his weapon to kill Rab. Eventually, all goes well, and he gets the chance to personally meet Rab in his cell with the front of the drug trade. They start with a casual conversation, which turns into a bloody struggle to finish him off quickly. Rab's death enraged the Muslim inmates, but it didn't matter since he gained the trust of Luciani. They even provide him with supplies and protection. After the incident, he takes Rab's advice and enrolls in class for an opportunity to be educated. However, he is haunted by his conscience and hallucinates living with Rab. After a year, he becomes Luciani's servant. Being with them gets him familiar with their behavior and language, which he imitates and applies to what he learned in class. After some time, he befriends a Muslim man named Riyad, with whom he becomes very close. As he gets used to the system in prison and the diverse community, things are starting to go downhill for Luciani. As a new law orders Corsican prisoners to spend their sentences close to their homes, Luciani loses his trusted men. Meanwhile, Malik discovers that Riyad has cancer, but despite his condition, he has finished chemotherapy and will get a real job once he is pardoned. The next day, Malik continues to run errands for Luciani and remains under his protection. He then reveals that he learned to speak Corsican by listening to them. Even though Luciani didn't take it lightly at first, thinking he was spying on them, he still trusted him. He makes arrangements for him to be a porter. Instead, he'll take advantage of earning money by being his eyes and ears in prison. Being somewhat promoted from lapdog status, he now understands the corruption and the wide sphere of influence the Corsicans have in prison, especially with the drug trade. After some time, he meets another gypsy drug dealer named Jordi. Jordi shares that he plans to make it big outside, ultimately making a living out of kilos of drugs in Europe via convoys. As luck continues to be on Malik's side, Luciani helps him grant a furlough to do his business outside. Riyad soon responds with the news of Malik's furlough. Although he's glad he can slowly integrate back into the community, he honestly tells him it's tougher living outside than in prison. Since the news of Malik's furlough, Jordi has tried to convince him to take the 100 kilos of hash hidden in a cubicle just outside Paris to a store. One of his men left it, and no one else knows but him. He badly wants it. Soon, Malik's request will be granted and he may only be released for 12 hours. For the first time in what seemed like forever, he temporarily gets a taste of freedom. However, it's not without a price. As Luciani's messenger, he gets dropped off at an unfamiliar house to leave a suitcase behind. He is then forced to the basement, where the exchange happens, releasing Sani as a hostage. After receiving the money, he checks to see if what Jordi said is real. Fortunately, he listened and got the idea to sell them with Riyad and some other guys. He plans to use the same idea he got from Jordi, using convoys to supply drugs to big clients. Working as a team, Riyad is in charge of the city, while Malik deals in prison with Jordi. Unbeknownst to Luciani, he is taking advantage of the furlough. Over the weeks, more drugs have been getting inside through various means. At the court, Luciani notices the increasing number of Muslims, so he instructs Malik to get closer to them. However, Malik suggests a better idea, sending the guards to threaten the Muslims to make them submissive to Luciani. Luciani takes the advice, and soon, The guards cause havoc on their block. Hassan, the leader of the Muslims, approaches Malik, requesting his aid from Luciani to ease the treatment. Afterward, Luciani meets up with him, and in exchange for their comfort and security, they make an arrangement for Malik to meet Illiterate to fix his problem in Marseille. Despite things going smoothly in prison, Riyad is ambushed in the city by Latif, the Egyptian. Malik's business is disrupted, so he requests the help of the Muslims to assault Latif's brother-in-law, Cesar, in prison and his family outside. They then threaten and force him to relay the message to Latif to let Riyad and his hash go to save Cesar's mother. Eventually, Luciani notices Malik's suspicious activities and confronts him brutally, saying he would be useless if he got caught and lost his furlough. After almost impairing his one eye, he makes it absolutely clear that he lives for him, having all the privileges because of him. After a while, their intense confrontation settles. Malik has arranged to spend his furlough in Marseille to meet Illiterate. He is ordered to relay Luciani's message about his interest in directly negotiating with him without Marshaghi, his notorious Italian boss. This means he wants to independently partner with him for business and cut ties with Marshaghi. When the day of the furlough came, Riyad arrived late, risking Malik's crucial flight to Marseille. They have a brief argument about terminating Latif for disrupting their business. However, Riyad manages to stay level-headed as they go to the airport. Immediately upon boarding the plane, Malik is speechless as he, once again, has another taste of freedom. As he dreamily gazes upon the clouds, he smiles as he enjoys the simple services of the cabin crew. When he arrives, he is quickly taken by a group of men to a cliffside road, where he meets Illiterate. After a brief, tense discussion about Luciani's deal to cut ties with the Italians, Illiterate pulls out a gun. He interrogates Malik about his relationship with Luciani. Suddenly, he starts yelling about the death of Reb, who is apparently his friend. Suddenly, Malik screams for them to watch out as he sees an animal warning road sign. In an instant, a deer lunges at the windscreen, leaving a bloody trail. As Illiterate and his men haul up the deer, Malik admits killing Reb. Somehow believing that Malik is a prophet, Illiterate gives him new clothes and some food. Then, they get down to business as Illiterate informs Malik that there's a spy among the Corsicans. With this new information, he is told to relay the message to Luciani. Illiterate then tells him that he'll accept Luciani's deal if they manage to take out the spy. At the same time, Malik also manages to strike a deal with him to intimidate Latif in exchange for shared services and cash. When Riyad picks him up, Malik happily lets him in on his agreement with Illiterate to solve their issue with Latif. However, Riyad's facial expression drops when he tells Malik that his health is failing again and that he needs to get back to chemotherapy. Days later, Luciani starts to question Malik's loyalty and intentions regarding his services. Despite Malik's cool responses, Luciani pulls a power trip to remind him of his place. Later that night, Malik contacts Riyad and tells him to transfer all his money to the Imam's account. After the exchanges, Malik is briefly attacked by the Muslims in the prison. When things settle down, Malik calmly gives them perspective on where they stand in the prison compared to the powerful Corsicans. He slyly asks them to work with him, but Hassan refuses. He makes it clear to Malik that he must never associate himself with the Imam again, whenever it comes to money, and leaves him. Not too long after that, Luciani asks Malik for a favor and clarifies that he trusts him enough to do it. He quietly tells him to form a team to take out Markhaji and his men. After releasing the location, Luciani adds that Vittori will also help provide the necessary supplies. Upon hearing the plan, Riyad tells Malik that he only has 6 months left to live. Then, they strike up an agreement, saying that Riyad will help in exchange for Malik's assurance that he'll take care of Riyad's wife and son when he's gone. Unfortunately, they can't get the rest of their men on board, leaving only the two of them to accomplish the risky task. Being set up as if he's going to a rehabilitation center, Malik and Riyad meet Vittori. However, as he gives the supplies, the two men lunge at him, knocking him out. After dragging Vittori's body into the van, they speed to the location of Markhaji. When they see their target's car, they warily wait outside with their guns ready, like wolves waiting for their prey to come out. However, something goes wrong, and Markhaji doesn't come out. Instead, his car continues down the road, with Malik and Riyad quickly going after him. Hailing the black vehicle, they come to a halt when it stops beside the road. A man comes out and goes inside one of the nearby buildings. Malik quickly grabs his gun and prepares to go after him, but Riyad stops him. However, when the man comes back, Malik frantically runs to him and shoots the man and the driver. He wisely uses the dead man's body as a shield as some men start shooting back at him. He masterfully takes out the rest of the men in the car and drags Markhaji back to the van. Disoriented and in total disbelief of what just happened, Malik quivers in his seat as Riyad drives to safety. When they confront Markaji at the back of the van, Malik tells him about Luciani's betrayal. He asks him to use Vittori to exact revenge. After staying with Riyadh and his family for the night, Malik returns to prison the next day. He spends the next 40 days in solitary confinement, jogging around the 4 dingy walls surrounding him. Meanwhile, Riyadh passes as a fight emerges among the Corsicans, causing them to murder each other as a result of Malik's exchange with Markaji. After Malik's brief confinement, Luciani sits on one of the court benches, dismayed at his great loss in prison. Then, he sees Malik coming out to the court, surrounded by his new gang of Muslims. When he starts walking to them, Malik's men stop him, promptly throwing a punch to his stomach as he drops to the ground. Finally, on the day of his release, Malik signs all the necessary papers as he is released back into society. Knowing his newfound position as a gang leader, Malik comes out of the facility confidently. The movie ends as his men follow him as he fulfills his promise to Riyadh to take care of his family. That's all from the video. Thanks for watching. And take care.